Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt. This is KUGAN CASSIUS for Rifle TV in association with USYK Global. We're in the bubble. Pretty spectacular, isn't it?
It's a step up. Jesus, walked in here. I can't believe what they've done. It's definitely gone all out, haven't they?
Absolutely.
And this screen here. Jesus.
Dave, how are you first of all?
Very good, thanks. Yeah, really good. Glad to be at a big show again. It's I know we ain't got the crowds and stuff, but the big fight feelings here, and I've come into the bubble and there's a buzz about the place and excitement. So I've seen USYK already. He's come over and said hello. He's top guy is. That's what's good about this fight as well. Both are great characters. Both fun-loving sort of characters. But when it comes down to business, both spiteful.
Okay, let's talk about the main event first of all, and then we'll come on to Amy Timlin's Commonwealth Challenge against Carly Skelly. What does Derek need to do? Come on, let's break it down. What does Derek Chisora need to do Saturday night to shock the world, which he will?
It's a very, style-wise, it's a very tough fight for him because, it's a southpaw. He's a mover. He's got angles. He hits. He's not the biggest puncher in the world, but he is spiteful enough. I think the main factor is Derek's got to get his feet in range. I think the feet are so important, and USYK's feet are so impressive, which makes Derek's job even more of a challenge. We saw against Gashi, we saw how when Derek couldn't get his feet in range, how Gashi was escaping constantly. But whereas Gashi wasn't exchanging and looking to throw back, USYK will be. So he's got to, if he's throwing from out here where his feet aren't in range, he's going to be throwing off balance, because USYK will give you and take it away, drop back, and then come back in and pepper you again. So the most important thing for me is the feet. It's all about the feet. He's got to. It's all right saying he just needs to throw punches and needs to work him, but you can't work somebody and throw the punches if you're out of range, because you're missing, and then you're getting countered back. Everybody's work rate drops, and then all of a sudden, because you can't get into range, you stop throwing punches. When you stop throwing punches, that's when USYK really goes up to the levels.
I don't know if you saw the press conference today, but
No.
Eddie Hearn, I'll just kind of recap on that. Eddie Hearn suggested to USYK that people were questioning his power at heavyweight, and he didn't take offence to it, but there was a moment there where he's like, why do I keep getting asked this? And there was, I don't know if you know what his response to that was. Okay, so his response to that was ask Tony Bellew, who was sat there, like literally there.
Yeah.
So Tony kind of smiled, and then probably just it sunk in what he said, and then he kind of the smile quickly went. But I think it was just a little moment.
Yeah, but that fight was at cruiserweight. So the question was apparently about his punching power at heavyweight. So that doesn't answer anything. Do you know what I mean? We know that he hit hard enough at cruiserweight, but at heavyweight his punching power is unproven yet. But what I will go and say about that is the same sort of questions were asked of Evander Holyfield when he stepped up. Remember? It was, he's too small, he's not a big enough puncher, blah blah blah. Didn't really stop him from achieving a hell of a lot at heavyweight, did it? And also, we are quick to write off fighters. I remember, I think it was his first defence. I might be wrong, but I think it was his first defence of Holyfield's against Bert Cooper, and he got tagged and he was rocked. He looked all over the place against Bert Cooper, who was just a club fighter, come forward club fighter, strong, can punch, but he was just seen as a hand-picked opponent. And everyone wrote him off, saying that's it. Oh, when the big boys get hold of him, he's got no chin at the division. This, doesn't hit hard enough for all. So everyone wrote him off. But then you look back at his career at heavyweight and you see what he did. So we are very, very quick to write fighters off when they're coming up through divisions. Usyk hits hard enough. It doesn't have to. It's the same thing as Holyfield. Again, I will say you don't have to have that one-punch knockout power, but you have to punch hard enough to get a bit of respect. And I believe Usyk hits hard enough to get respect in the division.
What did we take from his fight with Chaz Witherspoon, which was over a year ago now? And no disrespect to Chaz Witherspoon, I mean, Derek Chisora is, miles ahead of an opponent like that. So, what did we take from that fight that kind of give us an inkling to how he's going to adapt into heavyweight boxing?
So, that was a difficult fight for Witherspoon, but it was a difficult fight for Usyk because it was last minute, if I remember rightly. It was a change of opponent last minute.
Tyrone Spong was meant to be the original opponent. Yeah.
So, and it was never going to be a big test, his first fight in the division. But, yeah, I mean, he won it comfortably, did what he wanted in it. The only thing I would say is that when he was getting hit, I think there's a level of adjustment that you have to make when you step up through the divisions. It doesn't matter whether you're a flyweight stepping up to bantam, super bantamweight, whatever, but he's getting used to getting hit by these bigger guys with the smaller gloves on. And I talk about the smaller gloves quite a lot, and people think, oh, what's he on? But there's a big difference between getting hit with like 20-ounce, 18-ounce gloves on and a bar head guard, and there's a big difference between getting hit by heavyweights in the gym in those circumstances to when there's no head guard and there's little 10-ounce gloves on. When you see these big guys put these little 10-ounce gloves on, you look at it and you think, fucking hell. To think that you're getting hit with those. So there's probably going to be a little bit of getting used to that. And I know people say, oh yeah, but he boxed at heavyweight when it was an amateur boxing Joe Joyce, for instance, and things. But it's a little bit different. The gloves in the amateurs, especially back then, are a lot different to what the gloves are. And when you're boxing somebody in Everlast Rays or Fly gloves, it can be quite brutal. So the weight of the punches might just took him a little bit of a surprise. And it looked, a couple of moments, it kind of did look like it. He wasn't. I don't think Usyk's the kind of guy that even when you look at his cruiserweight reign, he doesn't exchange with you, where when you're firing, he will throw with you. He likes to evade you, make you miss, and then as soon as you stop punching, then he'll go through here. And in fact, any time a fighter kind of just puts his hands up to kind of have a breather there, then you see him really go to work, and they'll mix up head and body. But there's not a lot you can take from that. It was his first fight in there. I did wonder about the weight, whether, some people, you put weight on and it doesn't suit them. Especially something that's fluid like Usyk. I did wonder because I think he's had a few injuries since the move up to heavyweight. He's been at heavyweight for a long time now, but not many fights, one fight. And I think a major factor of that, if I'm right, is he has some injuries. Now, a lot of times when you put on this weight, if it's not natural weight as such, it's more manufactured, by an intent to bulk up as such, then your body maybe doesn't adapt to that really well, or it takes a bit of getting used to. And he seemed a bit more mechanical, he seemed a little bit heavier. And for me, in all the bag work and the stuff, the little clips of training that we were seeing over the months, it just seemed a little bit mechanical and stiffer for me. But then they released a little clip of him on a bag the other day, and everything was flowing, and he looked sharp, he looked fast, his feet look great from what I've seen now. So it may be the length of time at the weight and everything, you settle in, your body gets used to it, your body. It's like when a fighter fights at 10 stone, has a few weeks off, puts on a stone and a half or a stone, then goes for a run. It feels, you feel heavier, you feel, all your joints, everything feels like it's harder work. I think maybe there might be an element of that when he's moved up to heavyweight initially, the body getting used to it, and then now he's more comfortable at it. So I don't know. There's not a lot you can take from that last fight for me, really. This is his first acid test. This is where he's not got a guy that's in front of him that's just going to come because it's a good payday. He's jumped in at last minute. Do you know what I'll say? When Derek was with me, I remember at the gym after a training session one day, he came out. Nobody spoke about this before, and he said, "You know, I want to fight." I went, "Go on." He went, "I want Usyk." And I just looked at him and went, "You don't need that. You don't need that. It's fucking all wrong for you." He was like, "No, I want that because nobody thinks I'll beat him."
When was
Like,
this?
this was well, I ain't training for a year, so and it was before. I think it might have been during the. It might, I don't know. It's either before or after Gachet, but it was way back then, before anybody had spoke about it, and I was like, "Nah, you don't want that one, just for style." And but I didn't think he was talking about it. Yeah,
roughly,
yeah. And so it's been in his head. It's been in his head. He's actually wanted this fight. Now, there's a lot to be said about fighters when they actually seek out somebody and want a fight. They want that fight, and everybody else can think, "You're mad, what are you doing?" But that fighter wants that fight. And Derek's very, very mentally charged, where the state and the balance of his mentality affects the way that he fights. If he's not really asked about somebody in front of him, then we've seen him how he's very, very flat. When he's really, really up for it, then no matter how tough the fight is and how bad it might be going, he don't give up. He keeps going. Look at him against Takam. We thought he was done in that fight. Look at him when he's fought Dillian. It's his mental state that's charged him up. Now, add to the fact that the last couple of years since he's been with David A, he's living right. He's been putting the right things into his body. His nutrition's absolutely spot on. He's been training smarter when it comes to his S&C sort of stuff. He's in so much better shape now, where you can talk about age and wear and tear on a man's body, and you can talk about, oh, well, it was this when he was younger, but so how can he do it now when he's older? But if you didn't live right when he was younger, and if you was not in the best physical condition when he was younger, just because you was younger doesn't mean you was getting more percentage out of your body than what you are when you're older. If you're doing everything right when you're older, then you can kind of compensate a little. Listen, you can't stop for all the time, you can't rewind the clock, but you can kind of make up for a lot of things. So I think physically he's in the best sort of shape. Mentally, if he can handle not having a crowd, then you'll see Derek give it absolutely everything, and then it's down to whether he can get in range or not, and whether he can master the feet. The feet are a bit. That's my worry, is the feet, is because if he can't get his feet into range, then he's got no chance in this fight. That it all comes down to his feet, and if he starts throwing shots for when he's from out of range, then Usyk's going to pepper him, and he's going to tire quickly, and he'll knock him off balance quicker, because when Derek misses, he'll fall off balance quite a lot, and Usyk's the kind of guy that with his reactions and then the way that he'll feint and he'll drop, as you miss, the energy will sap out of you quickly, and that's what the mental energy that he drains from fighters is massive. It's very, very underrated. It's a big part of what happened in our fight with Tony. He was having success. He was comfortable in what he was doing. He was keeping his shape, but mentally it was draining him. And then when you get that mental fatigue, you start making the wrong choices. You start feeling a little bit heavier in your legs. You start forcing your punches. You start leaving more bigger gaps. Whereas maybe early doors you're a little bit safer. You start making, leaving gaps for the opponent to pick, and that's when he will then go up through the gears. So it's very important that he gets his feet in range. It's very important that, for me, that he works his body, hit him to the body, hit him on the arms, hit something. If for the first 2 rounds he doesn't catch him in the head at all and the chin at all, but he's nailing him down here and he's getting into range to land those shots downstairs, because Derek's so heavy-handed, very physically strong, that's where he's imposing his strength, and that I would be happy with that, because once he gets into that range and he starts touching him there, we saw against Spilka when he went on the attack, he went downstairs and then switched it upstairs, because it's all right saying, well, you can just take the body shots. You can't. You feel the weight of his shots. And so the hands just drop down a little bit, and then he finds the gap upstairs. That gives him a chance. But he can't do that if his feet haven't got himself into range.
Well, 2 more days, and we shall see. It's intriguing.
I'm excited because it is intriguing, because no matter what, there are fights in history where we look at this man is a pure boxer, great boxer. This man is just a fighter, and you just think, well, he will outbox him, end of. But then the man with the will, the determination, desire, pulls it off. A big thing for me is how he reacts to the crowd, no crowd as well. Because when you look at the moments when the Takam fight, he's absolutely fucked. He's got nothing left. The crowd starts singing his name, drives him through. Remember the Dillian Whyte fight, especially the first one when they were both absolutely gassed. Derek will take a step back, a big breath, sucking all oxygen into his lungs he can get. Crowd starts chanting and singing his name. He goes again. How many times did he look absolutely gone in that fight? But he kept going. When he hasn't got that, and if things start getting tough, how much does he actually draw from the crowd to recharge the next attack for him? And that's an intriguing thing for me as well. There's so many different things in it, you know.
Let's move on to Amy Timlin, who challenges Carly Skelly for Commonwealth title this week. Talk to me about this fight, Dave.
I'm excited for this. You know, she's my first signing on management of a female fighter. Female boxing now, women's boxing just flying. It's flying, and it's deserved because they can fight. You know, the standard of the women's game is just rising and rising and rising. And Amy, she's 20 years old. She can fight. She's 20 years old. She's very shy. She's very in herself right now. She's not got that confidence yet. These things like this is the first time. So it's a real eye opener for her. It's a great experience for her, and she'll develop. But at 20 years old, she, as a fighter in the ring, she's got such a mature head on her. She's got a wicked left hook to the body. She's like a wicked left hook to the body. Me and Kieran were just talking about it, but he was just saying to me about how her right hand's developed really well with this fight now. You know, he says she's really in hard. She's like a man with that right hand. That's his words, not mine. And I'm excited to see her with this opportunity because it's her chance to jump in on the the big drama show that is women's boxing right now, and she lives it. She lives the life. It's like this bubble life. Doesn't affect her one bit because this is kind of her life. That's it. Train, go home. That's it. You know. So I'm excited for it. And with Carly, she's unbeaten. You know, she fancies it. She's a bit heavy-handed, especially early rounds. It'll be interesting first couple of rounds, but when Amy starts going to work, then I think people are going to be impressed with her. People that haven't seen her will be impressed with her, and because the people that have seen her already all rate her, you know, and some good boxing minds and boxing brains like Frankie Gavin and people that have been around her and they rate her. Do you know what I mean? So it's not just our camp. You know, you've got Tassa Jonas, you've got Terry Harpers that have done rounds with her and stuff. Steffi Bull, they all think a lot about her. So it's some good boxing minds that have seen her and rate her. So hopefully she enjoys the occasion and she puts in a good performance.
Well, like I said, a couple of days more, we look forward to it. So yeah. Yep. Dave, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV. Got the weigh-in. By the time this actually goes out, it'll be tomorrow, so the weigh-in has been today at some point. And hopefully we'll catch up with you again at some point this week.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks.
Thank you, mate.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.